Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of The Late Challenge. I'm Mo Stewart, that's Gareth Roberts, and I can speak for myself, but I'm in a much better mood this week than we've been for the last couple of weeks. We've had to scrape the barrel for some content and for some positivity in recent times, but Liverpool this week have done the business. There's been 2 wins, loads of goals, some great players playing well, some great moments, maybe even some transfer stuff. This is deadline day after all. So, I don't know about you, mate, but I'm feeling a lot better about life.
Yeah, 10 goals, 2 wins, all of that kind of thing helps, doesn't it? And, you know, still not perfect, but, you know, and let's not do all the, you know, we're back and all that kind of stuff. We've been stung with that one before, but yeah, 2 home games, 2 wins, definitely sort of helps, doesn't it, with the mood, hopefully with the confidence. Carabac, I know you've put on the agenda about sort of putting into contact that they're maybe not as shit as some people think they are, but equally, I would say both they and Newcastle to an extent obviously played into our hands a little bit. But like I say, you just can't complain if you won 6-0. You've got through to the next phase of the Champions League, which was always the aim. And then we wait and see who we get in the draw, obviously. But yeah, Newcastle, I enjoyed, because how could you not enjoy it? It was great. Yeah. You know, the first half hour or so, they were obviously causing us problems. They come to make a bit of a statement. I thought they were getting stuck in. You know, they were getting forwards. They clearly thought we were there for the taking, and they wanted to be positive front foot and cause us problems, and they did. You know, there was about 7 corners, I think, in about 20 odd minutes, and that hasn't been exactly a strong point for us. So to emerge the other side of that as well is a really positive thing. Yeah. You know, I was watching it thinking, well, this is literally practice for our weakness. Although I did notice that McAllister still seems to be on the big fella, which I will just never understand.
Like there's just some real stubbornness. I mean, people talk about Arne Slot being stubborn in other ways, but there's clearly something really special going on there that no one else is aware of. I'm not even sure McAllister is aware of it, because I don't know what he's supposed to be doing. Like, I mean, fair enough. If you're the size of McAllister, you're not really going to be much help at corners in terms of nodding the ball away. Although, he does actually score more headers than you think. But
Including against
Carabac. But, I mean, unless his job is to just, like, you know, knee him in the balls or something, I don't know how he's going to stop that.
It's that funny, like, if you watch it, though, he's like, you know, getting himself, like, hyped and all that. Like, right, here we go. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever you do and however high you jump, he's going to jump higher than you, mate. But no, it was good. It was good in terms of, you know, the results, and goes without saying that Hugo, Ekitike and Wirtz are looking the absolute business now. Yeah. And in a weird way, that's kind of sort of worked out, although I do feel it's kind of pushing a problem into, you know, a future podcast, if you like, or certainly for Arne Slot. What I'm saying here is, you know, the injury to your man, who we've now forgot his name, the £125 million striker, who was, you know, having a little grin on the bench. Where's he fit in then? Because, you know, let's not forget that there was a point earlier in the season where Ekitike, who's now the star man and scored 15 goals and looks the absolute business, was actually dropped to make way for an unfit Isak to get some minutes, which, you know, I didn't understand then, and I understand even less now. So, you know, that's in the post is what I'm saying, that when he's back on the pitch, when he's back on the grass, you know, how's you fit all 3 of them in? I mean, obviously Ekitike does drift out to the left a little bit, but he isn't a left winger. No. I don't know, one for future discussion, but
I've got a theory on that.
Go on.
So I think that's not necessarily bad news for Isak. I think it might be more bad news for Cody Gakpo and Mo Salah. I think what that might be is a change of formation where we've got 2 strikers, Wirtz in behind, 3 midfielders behind him, 2 flying fullbacks, and 2 rock-solid centre-halves. That kind of makes more sense when you look at the squad that we've got and the ones that we're potentially bringing in and building. More on that in a minute. So, yeah, you can see a world where that becomes the norm. But that is very much dependent on Isak coming back and getting back to the level he was last season and the level that I still believe he can get to.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he will come, someone's saying in the comments he'll come good, and I absolutely believe he will as well. I mean, you can't be that good and then, contribute nothing. I mean, like, he was unbelievable, wasn't he, at one stage? And, you think about sort of bullying some of our centre-halves and stuff like that, what the problems he's caused us on the regular. It will happen. It's just a case of what we're saying now, understanding between, Ekitike and Wirtz, although I would say there was evidence of that in the very first game they played in the Charity Shield. But, that's coming more and more. But unfortunately, he's missing out on that, isn't he? There's no understanding developing when he's not even on the pitch, unfortunately. So, but look, maybe what it does do is slightly change the dynamic in that, if you've scored 15 goals plus, and you imagine it'll be plus by the time he gets back on the pitch, it's an easier sell to say to him, well, there's a reason you're not in the team, and it's that fella there is drawing comparisons with Torres and all the rest of it. It's banging them in, is a hero, has got a song, looks the business, is a bit needly, is a superstar, does great interviews afterwards and all the rest of it. I love that interview afterwards where I think it sounds like it's Joycey asking him about how close he got to Newcastle and all that kind of stuff, and he's just like, look, it just doesn't matter, I don't care, I'm not bothered. You're not getting any more out of me than that. And then like, well, what about them giving you sound? It doesn't bother me whatsoever, and you can tell he's not lying.
No,
it really doesn't bother him.
No, and to the point where he was happy to give some back afterwards.
Like, fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. And I've seen some of the Newcastle content creators feel a little bit sore about it, but I think you can tell by the way Eddie Howe was talking about him after the game. It's kind of like he knows how good he is, and he knows that this is exactly why they wanted to sign him, and he knew that him not getting him was going to have ramifications. And for some people in Liverpool, at the point of signing both of them, it was almost like Ekitike became an afterthought because of all of how much the Isak saga dominated everything. But like, Newcastle knew how good he was, Liverpool knew how good he was, and now, thankfully, so does everybody else.
Yeah, and look, you like any time you buy a player from another league, and there's a settling period and all that kind of stuff, and that's what we've all been saying about Wirtz, albeit he's now looks fantastic, has come and good, and said himself that struggled a little bit at first, but he's getting into rhythm now. Ekitike's not really struggled whatsoever. Like, where's the struggle bit? Where's the settling in period? They just come in and hit the ground running and look fantastic all the way through, really. And it's really nice, isn't it? I think now, like, the Carabac goal, where he's burst through from the halfway line. We've had plenty of players, I would say, including one in fairly recent times, where they're bearing down on goal and you're like, not sure how this is going to go. Not sure how this is going to go. But with him, you're like, it's goalless. Goalless. And he just seems to be on an absolute crest of the wave. He's flying. He's doing great stuff. I think you got it in your agenda, didn't you, about people making the Torres comparison. I think you said there, you thought it was a little bit stretch. I did as well, a little bit. I was like, bit. But I mean, that is literally the replay of the Chelsea goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we were all saying in the pub afterwards, and then lo and behold, Liverpool have literally cut the two together and ran them side by side.
Shout out to Mike Manning, by the way, because I know that was definitely his idea.
Yeah, it's good that, and it is, and then Ekitike, I think, has shared that as well. But I mean, even that was interesting, wasn't it? I think we and all football fans, you buy into the story of a player or their personality. All of that stuff's important. And I think he was saying he didn't know too much about Torres because they literally didn't have the subscriptions to watch the Premier League. And you're like, that's mad, isn't it? It's knocking around in a Lambo now, playing for the Reds.
Exactly, yeah. But I think what I love about that again is that, like you say, he didn't know much about it, but he knows what everyone's saying about it, and he's not shying away. He knows how beloved Torres was to Liverpool fans now, but he's like, yeah, compare me to him. I'm not bothered. I'll take on whatever you want to take on. And I just think, like I say, stylistically, it wasn't the same, but I can see where people are getting it from because of how he's just come in and hit the ground running. That's the same thing that Torres did. And also, I mean, before he even dyed his hair blonde, which, I mean, come on. There's a bit of a Fowler in that, but I mean, that's also very Torres. I think he is a handsome fella. And I think you can see him in lots of ad campaigns and all that kind of stuff. And that was the same with Torres as well. It wasn't it? It was the whole package. It was a great footballer who came, hit the ground running, and everyone liked the look of him and everyone liked what they heard from him. And that's kind of where the comparison lies for me, really.
Superstar quality, isn't it? Like,
absolutely.
Some people shine in an environment like Anfield and Liverpool Football Club, and other people, it makes them shrivel up and curl up and turn into something lesser than what they once were. Stu Downing. Just got to give a little shout out because I've got the comments back on this week. Some people moaned or commented on me turning them off last week. I didn't turn them off, I just didn't look at them. But shout out to an absolute bellend who's commented on stuff for years now, who seems to have created a new account so he can get back on.
Oh my god!
And I know it's defo him because of like the shite that he says, like bollocks about he can't understand what I'm saying or whatever and all this. Lad, like, why do you keep coming back? And also to people who are watching live right now in the comments and saying, "Here's this week's bellend," would agree, but also just press hard on his little emoji if you like in the live chat and just block him. Because I did that as soon as I realised it was him. So can't even see what you're saying, mate. Fuck off.
It's funny, actually. Just before we went on, I was watching something a good friend of ours, James Sutton, said about people who feel the need to spout hate online. It's like, they're never happy people. They're never people whose lives are going
What's happening in your life, George?
Yeah. And I mean, to go to that trouble, to go all the way to do that, I mean, like, really?
Why do you keep setting up new things to have a little weird pop at me in the comments, mate? Just look, if you want to take me out, we'll have a little drink. Get in touch, babe.
Okay, so this is not a bad segue, actually, because you mentioned people who go into that atmosphere and it makes them a bit weird in Stewie Downing. And you mentioned, people who can't resist the negativity. Let's talk about Anthony Gordon, shall we? Because, like, I get it. His family are Reds. He grew up a Red. He's kind of gone a bit of a weird trajectory in his career, but still. For some reason, every time he plays against Liverpool, he turns into the Incredible Hulk. Like, what is going on? After what had happened in the first game, where he got too hyped up, put in a tackle, it wasn't malicious, it was just stupid, but it was definitely a red card. Like you have one of those, everyone does something stupid, hold your hands up. But then to do it again, inside 10 minutes, I think it was.
I mean, I thought, like, there's a tempter in Alisson's touch, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
To tempt you into do it. And look, he's quite clearly, like, you see from the reaction when he scores that, I don't think he enjoys getting blue and white shite and being the pantomime villain when he's probably thinking, you've all watched the interview where they said Steven Gerrard was my hero, and you all know that I was a Red, but Everton took me on, and obviously he was strongly linked with a move at one point as well. So I kind of feel like he's 100% turning up, isn't he, with a point to prove, and obviously he got a goal cop end as well. So I guess deep down somewhere in him, he's probably thinking, yes, in a weird kind of way because it's against Liverpool. But he's definitely hyped up. It was borderline, wasn't it? Like, you're right. He could have gone, especially when we had a referee as shit as that in charge, and He was defo taking a risk, and there was defo an element of that. Didn't you learn from the first one? No. But yeah, I like him though. I like him in general. I mean, don't get me wrong. I took part in the pantomime stuff because I was enjoying myself on Saturday. I was with my lad. I was in a different seat. I was on the moon watching the Reds basically. I was in the top tier of the main stand, to the point where someone actually said to me at one point, what are you doing up here? I don't know. But yeah, no, why I was up there was to be with my lads so that we could sit together, and it's high up there.
Yeah, I mean, you're not a million miles away from me because I'm in the gantry, so there's like one level above us but we're like right on the far side and the left-hand side by all the away
We were sort
fans.
of like overlooking the away end, if you like, but in the main stand. Dead, like I say, dead eye up.
Well, yeah, you were probably sitting above me then.
Yeah, but you know, it's a good view, but it's a very different view, and I feel quite privileged to have me seat in the Kop.
So the cool thing about that view and sitting in that corner is that, particularly in if it's like a Sunday evening game, so for the City game on Sunday, you'll get that point where it starts off in light and then it goes into dark, and you get to see the light change, and you can see the cathedrals in the background and that kind of game. It's very beautiful. Obviously, like more often the time you're looking at the pitch, but every now and then that bit will catch your eye. But yeah, how do you feel in general? Because I put this on the agenda as well about Saturday night games, because they are controversial. I think it's one of those things where I always feel for the away fans, because it is just an absolute ball ache trying to get out of the ground at 10 o'clock on any day. But on a Saturday night, like, I got out of Anfield about 11:15, and it was just chaos. Like, you couldn't get a cab. Like, the buses were still massive queues. So if you're trying to get back to Lime Street, and I'm sure that there weren't any late trains anyway, then you basically you're committed to having to stay in the city. And atmosphere-wise, I felt like it was a good atmosphere for that game. I don't know how much of that had played into the fact that it was a night game and everyone's had a good extra few hours to get juiced up, or however you like to get up for a game. But yeah, it's pros and cons for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. Obviously the stuff I do in terms of like supporter representation stuff and Spirit of Shankly and stuff with the Football Supporters Association, etc. I've written letters on behalf of SOS. I've supported FSA stuff about, pleading basically for the broadcasters to show more common sense around what they pick and when they pick it, and to think about fans that travel, and to not, put 8 p.m. games when it's like two teams either end of the country. I mean, you think about first game of the season was one of these, and it was Bournemouth. I mean, like that's an absolute mission, that. And like, to be coming out of a ground after 10 o'clock and then you've got to go all the way back down there. They just shouldn't be doing that. Like, if you say like it's necessary because the amount of money that's coming into the game, then I hear all horrible arguments about, well, there's more people watching on the telly than there is in the ground. Yes, and well, we all experienced what it was like when there was no people in the ground and you were watching on the telly. And if I remember rightly, it was shite. So you do feel like there is more common sense that could be applied, like whether it be that these games are between two teams that are more local, as an example, and things like that. And what is annoying again through doing that work is that there's a constant creep, you know what I mean? There's the sort of semi-promise that they won't do things, and then they do things. And look, the other week I sort of experienced this firsthand, really, in that I went to Arsenal away. And, you're having to leave in the afternoon to get down there, and then you're getting back early hours of the morning. And, you've got to have, like, understanding bosses here and things like that. Do you know what I mean? If you work, and which I imagine most people are, because it's not cheap to do these trips either. So yeah, the away fans are a vital part of the whole spectacle.
Absolutely.
We in our spec even we were doing a bit of people watching when we weren't watching the match, because Cara, he's not even 18 yet, and so he's been to plenty of games, but there's still little things that I just sort of take for granted, like you would know, because I've been going for 30 whatever it is now, 36 years, and obviously he doesn't, because he's young, and he just might, so he was like, what's the score with these fellas here with no tops on? and I'm like, Newcastle, mate. And then he's like, and I said one of them has like, a really big belly and the Newcastle tattoo. And he's like, oh, that's not that fella then. And then he spotted the other fella, and he was there. And I said, yeah. I said, they're as famous as like the fella whose hair probably stinks, who supports Portsmouth.
Oh, yeah. Was it John Portsmouth is his name or something like that? Yeah. But no, you're right. Like, the away fans are such an important part of it. And look, we aren't daft. We know the way that football's going. We know how hard it is once these things come in to then creep them back. So maybe there are other things that they can do. Maybe there can be some rules where the Premier League work with either the government to make sure that there is more provisions for late public transport, or who knows, maybe the Premier League can even put on some coaches for people.
Well, this is the kind of thing we're trying to have conversations with them about. You know, things like, you know, could there not be like a, you know, like almost like the old school football specials in terms of, you know, you got a load of fans coming down from Newcastle, like find a way to get them back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than just sort of going, well, we know there's no trains, not asked, or you know, like give them some kind, like, look like you're arsed in some way or another, you know what I mean? And like, we've put that to the club and said, like, you know, is there anything you can do in these circumstances? I mean, remember, you know, the reverse of this fixture was 8 p.m. on a Monday night.
Yeah.
Again, you know, just not ideal. We've got one next week, Sunderland away in the middle of, you know, on a Wednesday night. And it's like, really? And again, you know, you're looking at it thinking, well, that's, you know, 6-7 hours round journey. Like, you know, the people who go away and regularly go away and commit to doing that, you know, deserve a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Listen, we will be discussing this again because unfortunately it's probably not going to be the last time we have to do with it. But yes, thankfully on this occasion at least, for the people who live in Liverpool, it was a nice night out because the team got the job done. It's funny as well because we spoke about the early Newcastle pressure and the fact that they were the better team in that first, well, pretty much until they scored, actually. I looked at the old XG race, as they call it, the stats to tell you who's doing what at what point in the game. And yeah, it looks very, very good for Newcastle right up until the point they score. And
even then, I felt as though we were starting to come into it at that point because I don't think we had a shot on target until about like 15, 20. And but at the actual point they scored, we started to like pile on a little bit of pressure. Well, we're not pile on, but we were starting to get in their half more, in their box more. And it was actually a little bit against the run of play when they broke away. Yeah. So it felt as though we'd like resisted a lot of the pressure and sort of come into the game a little bit. And then they scored, and it was a bit of a sucker punch, that. But
what I liked about it, and I didn't realise this until I think it was Paul Joyce said it in the press conference after the game. That was the first time in the league that Liverpool have gone behind and won since the game against Spurs that they clinched the league back in April, which is a bloody long time. But the reaction, because you can think about the way that game had gone, where all these like set pieces and we all knew what set pieces mean and we got through that. And then, as you say, we had our own little period where it looked like we were getting in and then they go and score. You could be very easy to understand if they start to feel a bit sorry for themselves,
Well, they have before. That's the thing
exactly.
As well, isn't it? You know, like I've commented on a few times on various shows about, you know, you see them, even like the one that still rankles with me, you know, not surprisingly, is Man United. Yes. And it's like, you know, we're losing the first challenges, and then and then they're all sort of looking at each other as though like almost like a here we go again type vibe, and it's like that's just completely wrong. That, like, you know, Anfield, you know, whether Saturday night is good or bad, Anfield felt right. On Saturday, like there was defiance, like in the stands and on the pitch, and that's what you expect to see from Liverpool. That's almost like DNA of Liverpool for me. And when you don't see that, and when you do see shrugging and, you know, them all looking at each other and them looking a bit sort of mentally weak, really, you're like, what's going on here, lads? And yeah, so it was really good to see them, you know, come from behind. And scored 2 goals before half time, and then fairly comfortably go on to win the game. You know, that was really refreshing to see. I mean, you know, for whatever reason, you know, Newcastle just, you know, Anfield's catnip to them, isn't it? Like it's just, you know, they just can't get involved. Like, you know, we had a guest speaker at the Spirit of Shankly AGM on Saturday, which was before the match. A lad called Thomas who does great work for the FSA. But he's a Newcastle fan, goes home and away, goes, you know, into Europe and everything else. And he said, you know, I'd introduced him as being a Newcastle fan. And he said, "Yeah, I've come here for 20 years and never seen us win."
Yeah,
and it's actually 30, I think, since they've won at Anfield.
but this is the thing, right? We don't realise it sometimes because we're always looking at it from our perspective. There's quite a few teams who've got similar stories. Like West Ham haven't won at Anfield in years and years and years. Arsenal,
Well, they did under Rodgers, though, didn't they?
yeah. That was the first one in like 60 years.
yeah.
Like Spurs, I think, have won one in the last 30 years. Arsenal went nearly 15 years without winning. So, like, we're actually really good at home.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it's hard to remember.
But that's weird, and that's why, you've had pressure on the manager and things like that, because that's I always say it, and I've said it, written pieces about it, all the rest of it for years. At home, home is where the heart is, to use a cliche, but you've got to turn it on at home.
Yeah.
You've got to like use Anfield as an advantage, and if it anyway starts to turn the other way, where it's becoming a bit toxic and the support's not there and the players don't believe and all the rest of it, and teams are turning up thinking, well, what's the big fuss?
Yes.
You've got yourself a problem there. So, like I say, I felt like Anfield was Anfield. It felt like we used it in the right way. I felt like the players were up for it, and there were so many aspects to love about it, wasn't there? I mean, I know you've got Konate on here somewhere. You'd have to have a heart of stone not to sort of look at that and say absolutely brilliant all around from him. I mean, he's good. It seems that the manager has said to him, "You don't need to come back at this point. You've lost your dad. You're only 26 years old." I lost my dad much later in life. It's it's 6 years plus now, and I still struggle with that now. So to be playing football a matter of days after it's happened, he's shown. It's fantastic that he's looked at it and thought, no, I want to play. I want to play for Liverpool. My team needs me, teammates need me, fans need me, club need me. I'll come back and play. And he put in a fantastic performance, and then gets a goal as well on top. And like right up there, funnily enough, where I was sat, I can't see that he's got tears in his eyes and all the rest of it from up there, but I've seen the highlights back, and yeah. Like I say, heart of stone stuff. Made me go a bit, to be honest.
No, so I had the luxury of seeing a little screen, so I could see it pretty straight away. And as soon as I saw he'd gone, because for me, it was weird because you never know how people are going to react to certain things. But for me, it was just a little thing in the back of my mind. I was just a little bit like, while he's been away, there's been almost no mention of him from the lads. Like, sometimes when someone's going through something, like they'll score and one of them will kind of hold up his shirt or something, or there'll be some, like, there wasn't any of that. And I don't know, like, obviously it doesn't mean anything necessarily, but in my mind I was just a bit like, okay, I've noticed that there was. But then to see that moment and see how everybody reacted, and like Ali sprinting the length of the pitch to go and give him a hug. And it was almost at that point where he went, because I think Ali kind of whispered something to him as he did it, because obviously, again, he knows what he's going through. He went through it himself about 5 years ago, was it now? Yeah. And that was the point when I saw his face. It was just like, oh man. And look, we, amongst other people, have been critical of Ibu this season for his performances. We have to hold hands up. Criticism that was justified because of his performances. But this is why I always say criticism should never turn into abuse, because as you say, you'll have to have a heart of stone not to feel for the guy now. But if you were one of those people who are going over the top and being really abusive at it, then you should feel pretty stupid about it right now, because look, these are human beings and we always have to remember that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. He really was, and it's not just because of the the situation on his father and that he's decided to play through that. He literally turned in a fantastic performance. Yeah. Nearly scored before he scored, and then did score. And it's just one of them moments, isn't it, where you're like, football's great, isn't it? Because that's obviously been a fantastic moment for him. I liked as well when again when I've watched it back, I saw it. I didn't really get onto it when I'm in the gods at Anfield, but Ekitike at the end as well comes sprinting over to him, and like, he's got a big smile on his face, Ibu, at that moment as well. And again, you're just like, well, you've obviously, goes without saying, had a really tough time here, and the fact something's put a smile on your face is not to be underestimated. And it made you think about other times. Obviously TT Kamara was one, where he played just after his dad had died. I think it was against West Ham, scored. And a similar thing was in tears as a consequence. Like, but it's just one of them human moments, isn't it? Like, when you stop and think about it, I was actually thinking about it today when I saw it, was watching the highlights back, and I'm thinking about my own dad and stuff like that, and I was thinking the way football is, and the pedestal we put them on, and the way we talk about them, and constantly in the public eye, you forget that. I'm old enough to say this now. They're just kids. 26 years old, like, is not. That's a young man.
Yes.
And I just think, even some of the stuff, I've probably, spoke hard at turn. Not abusive, but almost like, well, what's he doing with his contract and things like that. And then moments like that just makes you, take a step back and just think about it and think, well, I'm not living in their world. I don't know what the contract negotiations have looked like. I don't know what someone might be saying to his agent he can get elsewhere. And there is a point in all of their careers where they have to think about them and their short time playing football and setting themselves and the family up and getting the absolute most out of their careers. And, there's loads of, I mean, it's been a bit mad the last few days, hasn't it? But, all the Curtis stuff as well and things like that. Robbo before that as well. Let's have a think about these things, you know what I mean? We're all a bit mad and we all love our club and we all expect them to love our club in the same way we do. But they're not going to, because it's always going to be more transient for them than it is for you.
Absolutely.
Because to them, no matter how much we want it to be, it is a job. And look, some of them buy into it a lot more than others, and some of them seem to chime with our values more than others and all that, and that will always be the case. But yeah, a little bit of understanding wouldn't go amiss at times.
I think so. I definitely think so. And hopefully this can be one of those moments where everyone just has a little bit of a think about things. And yeah, maybe it won't last forever, but yeah, I'm glad it happened. And yeah, I don't know if you believe in higher powers or anything like that, but there was just something so perfect about him getting the goal
definitely
at the end of that game, particularly at the end of the game. So I wanted to circle back to one of the other goal scorers.
Circle back. Hey, welcome to the office.
Yeah, I thought you might get up on that. One of the other goal scorers, the one we haven't spoken about yet, Florian Wirtz. Our good friend Andrew Beasley had a stat. He's always got a stat. Florian Wirtz has a goal or assist every 93 minutes across his last 11 appearances for Liverpool. That's basically, he's contributing to a goal every game. And I actually looked at the Premier League games. He's scoring every other game since his first one. So that means he's probably not going to score against City, but he'll bag against Sunderland. So I'll take that from now on. But you mentioned that he looks a little bit more comfortable. I think the thing that most people I speak to are most excited about is his connection with Ekitike. Like, we talk about whether or not he's Ekitike is Torres. Well, if he's Torres, then Florian Wirtz is Gerrard, because the way that they are together is just that kind of one of those situations where teams aren't just going to have to think about him. They're going to have to think about both of them and where they are in relation to each other. And it doesn't seem to be something where they've spent hours and hours after training together or chatting or playing. It's just almost become natural to them that they are on that same wavelength. And I think that's what makes it the most dangerous thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always been, you think about partnerships right to the time you support Liverpool and, why they became special and stuff like that. And it does just seem players sometimes are on similar wavelengths. And like I said before, you could see that in the Charity Shield. And so, that was at a point where, they haven't had time to work on this in training or anything like that. It's just sort of coming about that they get each other. And I think we're continuing to see that. I mean, that run he does, Wirtz into the box of the first one, it's fantastic. He's took about 4 players out of the equation, hasn't he? And it's great as well because you can see that the ball control's so great, and he's just going past. But you can see what I loved is the defenders going, shit, I can't put a tackle in here. It's a pen.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And it's just sort of they're all going, don't know what to do. And before you know it, it's in the back of the net because he knows where Ekitike is going to be. Ekitike knows where he's going to put the ball, and it's a packed box. And he's picked them out and it's in the back of the net, and it's like, bang, have that.
Beautiful. And all of those people who were so desperate to write him off.
Oh, no, it's funny that, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if people saw or watched or you did or whatever, but I did manage to get a little dig in about that on the last episode of The Overlap. So, even then, there was a body of evidence that he is now coping with the league, that he is now coming good. And I turned round to Adam, he does the United stand stuff or whatever, doesn't he? And I said, and I remember Adam and his mate saying, he'd be back in Germany as a flop. And I said, don't think that's going to happen, mate. So yeah, all of those that, wrote him off, made daft memes and the 007 shite and all that kind of bollocks. Where are you now?
Yeah.
Where are you now?
And this is why it makes no sense to go so early in judging a player. Sometimes players just take a little bit longer. And I think when you're someone as good as him and has got as quality as him, because even at times when the numbers weren't coming, you could see the quality he had as a footballer. So
I hope we make a really big deal of it and it turned into a big thing. Like, so, we obviously always talk about like Dalglish and Rush and Toshak and Keegan, if you're old enough to remember that. I used to like when, like, you don't see it now, but if you look back at like old newspapers and things like that, which once upon a time, old magazines, like they used to do what they did all mad stuff with Keegan and Toshak, like putting them like back to back and seeing if they could guess each other's cards and all that. Like it was all this thing because everyone said like it's almost telepathy between the two that they know what each other's going to do and all that. And so the papers, made a bit of a laugh and joke about it. And then obviously like Rushy and Kenny's just like legendary stuff, isn't it? More recently, obviously Gerrard, Torres. We all love a partnership, don't we? Do you know what I mean? So it's nice to have one again.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said earlier, like whatever questions that this might be around the future of all the shape of the Liverpool attack, I think we can all be clear that between now and the end of the season, if you're listening, Arnie, just make sure the two of them are playing together as often as possible. Like, we're still not in the point where they can play 90 minutes. They're still both having to come off on around 80, 85.
I wondered with that one this time whether it was just literally like the game's won. So, you know what I mean? The game's won, like don't take any risks. We've got more games coming up, so you may as well take them off to get the flowers from the crowd and all that kind of stuff. I mean, on that as well, it's play Wirtz through the middle as well, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because all this, like, we're not sure where he fits in, we'll put him out on the wing and all that. Nah. That's where he's meant to be. You would suspect that was the promise that we heard about. Promises were made allegedly to get him signed, weren't they? And I think literally the line was Slaughter's told him what his plan for him is. Can't imagine it was go out on the left when you see him play like that. I mean, it was funny because, like obviously, the time allowed for a pint beforehand and stuff like that. So I don't know, it was make a pint beforehand, but it did for this. And when we were talking about it before and the team came through, we were a bit like, are we a bit soft, a bit light in midfield?
Few diddy men.
Yeah, but it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, it did work.
I mean, one player I haven't seen mentioned too much when people are talking about the takeaways from the game. Wirtz is obvious, Ekitike is obvious, Konate is obvious. But I thought Gravenberch was really good. I thought he looked back to his best, didn't he? I wouldn't say he's like massively being off, but you've just almost not noticed him as much, which may, and when he's at his best, you do notice him.
He's doing the burst again.
Yeah.
That little thing where he just like drops his shoulder and bursts between two players, and suddenly he's got the whole pitch in front of him.
He did that thing about 3 or 4 times as well, where he's just in the right place. And like, Newcastle will be on attack and suddenly he's on the ball and you're like, that was good. I mean, maybe it was, Anna, don't ever put me at centre half again.
Yeah, it's like, just because I can do it just doesn't mean I should do it.
But he was great.
He was great. And hopefully he'll keep that going for the rest of the season. Probably the only downside for the game itself was that it didn't really help Liverpool in the league because Man United won, Chelsea won, So
that was annoying. That I mean, the Chelsea one, we mentioned the pub beforehand. In the pub beforehand, we're watching that game and we're like, "This is boss." This is right.
Yeah.
They were 2-0 up, weren't they, West Ham?
Half time.
And so you're like, "This is going how we want it, right?" And then obviously, like they start to come back, and you're like, "Oh, we'll still take a draw." And then, but when they scored, there was a girl in there who cheered. And like, bear in mind, this is like everyone in the pubs are red. It's not an away pub. There's no away fans in there. And everyone went, including me. And she went, I've got Chelsea and last man standing. And I was like, you could have, but you don't cheer.
Yeah, exactly. You go, oh well, silver lining at least.
Keep that one to yourself when you're surrounded by reds. And we're all like, oh, yeah, that was a bit of a ball ache, wasn't it, in terms of both them and United sort of getting the 3 points when it looked like they were going to get something else. And so there's still a bit of it means there's still more work to do, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at them, there's still United on 41 points in fourth, Chelsea on 40 points in fifth, Liverpool 39 points in sixth. So it's not a million miles away, still in touching distance, but the two of them are now on a run of 3 wins in a row. So looks like for them, as far as they're concerned, they're coming into form at the right time. There was some good news, though, with Villa getting beat by Brentford on Sunday. So if you imagine, it's probably going to be 5 English teams again getting into Champions League spots by the way it's going so far in Europe. It looks like if Villa can kind of be dragged back into it, it's only 5 points now between them and United, then maybe it becomes 4 teams for 3 spots, which, again, feels a little bit better than it did a couple of weeks ago, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're still 7 points ahead of us, aren't they? So, that still feels like a fairly significant gap at
They've
this
got to
point.
play all 3 of those other teams, though. So they could, I mean, the way I say it, like, if you're Villa, when they were flying, they were beating everyone. What was it, 11 wins in a row? And now they've lost at home, back-to-back games to Everton and Brentford. So if that doesn't really scream wobble, then I don't know what does. I mean, to be fair, I also want to give a shout out to Fat Harvey Elliott got on the pitch. He's probably only going to go 2 more games for Villa before they shut him down. But yeah, pleased to see him on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for us as well to get some goals because it could end up being tight, and it will be down to ourselves if it does end up being that way because we shouldn't have lost 7 in the league and 10 in all comps at this point in the season, but we have, and so now it's almost like a salvage job. And make sure you get into the Champions League, make sure you get in that competition, make sure you get that money, because if you don't, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And look, it could be tight. Look, Chelsea have got plus 15 goal difference. United have got plus 8. We're on plus 6, and that's after winning 4-1 at Anfield.
Exactly, yeah.
So, there is work to be done. We do need to be more forward thinking. We do need to score some goals. We do need to turn potential draws into wins and all the rest of it. And it can't, Slot had said be better in both boxes, hadn't they? And they were. So, message received, hopefully, and hopefully we can take it into the weekend.
Yeah, well, this is it, isn't it? We're going to come on to talk about City in a little while. I just wanted to wrap up on the weeks because we don't normally go into the midweek game when we do this because it's almost like it's gone. But there are a couple of stories from the Carabac game we haven't really covered that I wanted to kind of bring up. The first one is set pieces. Now, this isn't just about Carabac. This is just about a general quirk, which I still can't quite get my head around. So, Liverpool have now scored 8 set-piece goals in the Champions League, which is more than anyone else. And they haven't conceded any. And when you consider in the league, it's pretty much the opposite. Liverpool, one of the worst, if not the worst, team in the league in terms of not scoring set-pieces and conceding from loads of them. Like, how is it possible that there's such a massive disparity? Like, I get it that maybe teams in the Champions League... well, yeah, but maybe teams in the Champions League aren't as practiced at it as the Premier League. But, like, at both ends, to be so different, it's... I mean, I'm scratching my head. I can imagine Arne Slot's doing the same. Like, how like... I don't... Even with different players. So, for example, scoring set pieces, right? It's pretty much the same. When you're training and you're planning routines, it's the same. Like, you've got to win your header. You've got to get in front of your man. You've got to show desire and also a little bit of technique. Like, that doesn't change who else is on the pitch. So, what's going on?
I mean, I think the Premier League is more physical, as simple as that, first off. And then also as well, I wonder about... we're refereed by different rules in Europe, which I think is wild. Is there anything in that, maybe? I mean, you see some of the stuff that goes on in the Premier League and isn't punished, and you're like, how?
Hello, Rodri.
Yeah, I mean, it's, but even the other way around, I mean, I'm sure City are a bit like, how can a fella put both arms around Haaland, pull him to the floor before a corner's taken, and not be sound because the ball wasn't in play?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, lads, yeah. Sound. And you see that every week, don't you? It's just wild in the box, like. So there's definitely more of that madness going on. I mean, we've seen Alisson get a bit of a cob on about it on Saturday, and maybe there's less of that in Europe. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, I think it's grocks, long throws, bigger concentration on set pieces maybe in the Premier League than there is in Europe. I mean, Arsenal are basically going to win the league because they do good set pieces.
Yeah, that's true.
Shit, innit?
We'll have to, boo. I'll have to look into whether or not there's a volume question as well in terms of there being more set pieces in the Premier League, and so it's harder to then.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, like, how come Newcastle are forcing 7 corners in about 15 minutes, as an example?
Yeah. Although you mentioned getting your arms around someone and throwing them down. I just want to give a shout out to Adama Traore for what was by far the funniest thing I've seen on a football pitch in so long. He absolutely ragdolled Mark Cucurella, if you haven't seen it. It was just, brutal. Absolutely brutal.
And the other fella, when he pushes him back and then sees him coming towards him. There's all kinds going on with that, being slowed down and put to music and all kinds. And it's fancy. That is not a fella you want to pick on, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Not at all. Not at all.
So, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to him. So on the Champions League then, I mentioned before about Carabac and their quality. And look, they weren't great. There's no getting around it. It was not their best performance. But I don't want to see people completely dismissing it out of hand and saying, oh, well, Liverpool are always going to win that game because they're a shit team. I just want to remind people that they did qualify for the playoffs of the Champions League, and they finished ahead of Benfica, Marseille, PSV, Napoli, Frankfurt, Villarreal. These are all teams who Liverpool have either lost to or had trouble with over the course of recent Champions League campaigns. And they played some good teams as well. They played, obviously, Liverpool. They played Frankfurt. They played Napoli. Played Athletic Club. They played Chelsea, where they drew with. They played Benfica and Ajax as well. So they weren't complete mugs. For example, I think Carabac would probably beat Burnley, and Liverpool couldn't beat Burnley at home. So you cannot completely out of hand dismiss the 6-0. You can say, they weren't great.
You can't dismiss it, but I mean, I think as well why people might have just waved it away a little bit as well as the fact that English teams just all relatively simply are getting through to the next phase, aren't they? And so there's a little bit of a how strong is the Premier League in comparison to all the other European leagues now, and that type of thing. That conversation is happening at the moment, isn't it? So that maybe sort of takes some shine off it as well.
I do think, though, when we talk about this, because we were talking about this time last year, I think we have to remember...
They don't fucking win them.
Well, yeah. Well, this is what I was going to say, the rhythms of it. So their Premier League teams are great at this period because they're all battle hardened, they've been through it. But because the Premier League's the only one that doesn't have a winter break, when you get to March and April, the trophy deciding period, what happens? They all start to fall off a cliff. And the teams who have less to deal with, only one domestic cup competition, suddenly start to look better. So it's all well and great saying that now, but we'll see where we are when it gets to the semis. Last thing on Champions League, obviously Liverpool avoiding the playoff round is great, massive. But there is a playoff round happening, and there are 4 particular opponents Liverpool could get in the last 16. Club Brugge, Atletico Madrid, Juventus, and Galatasaray. Now, I want you to rank them in order of preference in terms of the one you would like to see first and the one you'd least like to see last.
Club Bruges, please. And then Juventus last. I've largely avoided this, but I'd just like to say something on that, really, in that there's a huge sort of outcry, discussion, abuse, toxicity, whatever you want to call it, about the song for Chiesa. And I never got myself involved in it because I just thought, I can't be arsed, really. But bit like the same reason why I didn't bother last week with the comments. I just wasn't in the mood for it, and so I fucked them off. And for the same reason, I didn't really insert myself into this conversation. But when I saw it, and when I saw it all unfold, and I'd seen people, Ty Hughes being one who'd mentioned it, talked about it before it went all mad around Tony Evans on Twitter. Now, whether Tony made the point in a way that was going to wind people up or what is a different debate, but I actually feel like he's got a point, and so's Sai, and I always did do. And I found it quite mad how many Reds wanted to pile on other Reds who were simply saying, there's this disaster that happened in 1985, and maybe this doesn't really land in the way that it should or the way you think it should, and maybe it just looks a little bit bad to them, and maybe we need to have a think about that. And then people absolutely took off on each other over it. And I thought it was wild. And if we're playing them and that song is sang out there, well, they already hate us. You know what I mean? There's plenty of them that absolutely hate Liverpool for what unfolded in that day in 1985. And yeah, I mean, we would if it was the other way around, if it was something relating to Hills without people were singing or whatever, we're all over it, aren't we? And so that's why I was surprised by that reaction and that pile on. And so for that reason and for many other reasons, I really hope we don't get them. I just, I don't think it would be great. And I think it's an opportunity for things to be not great. And so, and also the decent. So there's that. Galatasaray, we talked before about away fans and away fans' experiences. And when I'm looking at that list there, I'm thinking, well, it's not great.
No.
And, that is something that needs to be addressed by UEFA for me now. And not just around them, by the way, but around the serial offenders where it's shite every time sets of away fans go there. Like, that they need to address the situation in their competition like they said they would after Paris, and they still haven't.
No.
So Galatasaray is not a great place to go away in terms of how you're treated. So for that reason, not that one, please. And then Atletico, well, fucking hell. If Slot doesn't like low blocks.
I was going to say.
Christ.
So yeah, there seems to be a bit of a chasm between number one choice and then 2, 3, and 4, to be fair. I mean, from a perspective of winning the game, I've backed Liverpool against Galatasaray. I think the lightning doesn't strike twice in terms of how bad they were in that away game. I think they'd be able to be better. Obviously, you could almost argue the reverse from the Atletico game. I don't think it would be as, well, like, to be fair, it needed a last-minute winner, wasn't it, to beat them. But I would say Liverpool would be favourites against any of them, but like you, there are some that I'd rather not have to deal with. But we've got 10 minutes of the show left, and there are 54 minutes. So I checked this time. I checked. Technically 8 minutes an hour. Fuck off. And there are 53 minutes left in the transfer window, so we should talk about that. It's been a bit of a mad couple of days for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Like, we should start with the positive news that Liverpool...
You're talking about people losing their shit online. Yeah, like the Curtis stuff was absolutely wild.
Yes, it was. I was literally travelling on my way to my other job as DJ when that broke, and just having conversations in about 3 different text chats and people saying this and that and the other, and conspiracy theories about this, that and the other, and it was just a bit like madness. But he stays for now. I'd quite like him to sign a new contract. There are people who seem to think that the whole thing has been maybe agent driven to maybe try and get a better deal on that. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully this isn't another saga. Liverpool, just get him signed. But I want to talk about Jeremy Jacquet because Liverpool have agreed a deal for Jeremy Jacquet.
Jeremy Jacquet.
I mean, first of all, it's like an extremely French name. Like it could be more Claude Francais, but yeah, I love the fact that he is.
Bought a jacket in the winter. And then we would have had a coat and a jacket who's played for us as well.
Oh yeah. But bought a jacket in the winter, but we can't use it until the summer.
How does that work?
I don't know. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've seen loads of him because unfortunately, Ligue 1 have made it a lot harder to see their football in the UK. But all of the people who have seen him a lot are very, very adamant that this kid is special. It feels a lot listening to people and experts talk about him like it did with Leone. Like there's an expectation in his home country that he's going to become a fantastic footballer. So the idea that maybe in the future, hopefully next season when Leone gets back, maybe the season after, you can see those two being a partnership for the future sounds a bit better. I mean, I remember the conversation we were having around Mark Gahey where it's like, we can't really slag them off yet. We might get to the end of the window and we can see what the plan was. Maybe this feels a little bit more like why they didn't want to spend that much money on him.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely more what we would always say is FSG, isn't it? You know what I mean? In terms of you're paying big for someone who's young and then there's loads of opportunity for resale value and all the rest of it. And yeah, I'm the same as you. Obviously, I haven't sat down and watched matches with him in or anything else, but tried to consume the bits and bobs that are out there, and all the people who would know are saying good things about him. The stats say good things about him as well. Like there's one I saw just before it came out that said, you know, it was like the top stats for defenders winning headers in Europe or whatever, and like he's right up there around sort of Virgil van Dijk level of winning headers. So and then other bits of sort of him, it looks like he looks like he can hit a pass. Looks like he can play a through ball. Looks like he can bring the ball out as well. So yeah, all of those things. You know, I mean, obviously the club will have done a lot more due diligence than I have.
Yeah.
But you know what we as fans see and what we're getting so far looks good. And the very fact that I think Arsenal were sniffing around them not so long back. Chelsea obviously thought they had it done.
They went hard.
They thought they had it done and hilariously went and told that fella off Sky that it was done. And then he said in his very certain way that he was definitely going to Chelsea and nowhere else. And then he was wrong.
He was wrong. Whoopsie. But, so, there is something about this. You mentioned Chelsea. The irony being, part of the reason why I think he chose Liverpool over Chelsea is because of Liverpool's situation around centre-backs and how few they've got compared to how many Chelsea have got. We'll come to whatever you're laughing at.
I've got to say it, just sorry, but you know, like it's just the attempt to crowbar this joke in. This is from Avo in the comments who says Slot was furious at Hughes for not getting him until June apparently, but Hughes told Slot no jacket required. One for the Phil Collins fans there.
Yeah, if you're not a Phil Collins fan, you will not understand that at all. Yeah, fair play.
Fair play, mate. Yeah. I like that.
So anyway, as I was saying, part of the reason why he probably chose Liverpool over Chelsea is because Liverpool don't have as many centre-backs as Chelsea have got. One thing I do notice, though, when you look at what kind of a style of a player he is, he's probably closer to Konate than Van Dijk in terms of him being aggressive, front-footed, the kind of guy who he can bring the ball out of play, and as you say, he can pass it, but he tends to be, if there's a two of a partnership, he would be the more aggressive one, whereas you'd have someone else, maybe Leone, to be the more measured one. What do you think that means for the potential of Konate staying? Do you think this makes it more or less likely or not at all?
Well, I mean, we're in January and we're in February and Konate's contract's up in June. So So I'd say things aren't looking great on that score, really. You'd kind of think you'd hope that something was done by now. And, we were praising him to the hilt before, rightly so, for his performance on Saturday. But across the course of the season, he hasn't been great. And so therefore you would think, well, how willing are Liverpool to go big on him anyway, given that uncertainty? And then there seems to have been whispers for a long time, doesn't there, about him wanting to go somewhere else and all the rest of it. So you'd have to say it doesn't look good. And then Virgil's up the year after as well. And he's soon to be 35. So we needed to do something. The disappointment for me really is, and I know you got it down here, is that while this is exciting and it looks like we've gone and signed a young talent that lots of other clubs wanted and all the rest of it, I'm still a bit disappointed, I've got to be honest, that we haven't got someone for now.
Yeah.
It always feels like, as a fan, these things are weird. Like who was the other fella? My memory's terrible today. The fella we had to wait a fucking season for him to come.
You mean... Wait.
We signed him a year. We signed him and then he stayed where he was for a year.
Oh, Naby Keita.
Naby Keita, thank you. So that completely went on my arm. But I could picture him. I could think. I was thinking, and he got injured on the plane because his neck cushion wasn't right, and he was just a mad fella. But yeah, that whole thing of a year of watching YouTubes and waiting for him to turn up was just mad.
No.
And so this is equally annoying in a way, in that we need someone now. We need someone who we can play right back and play centre half. We're all sweating a little bit on how the rest of this season looks. Dom's still throwing shade out there about playing right back because he's making it really, really obvious he wants to play in midfield. That was weird, by the way. For all the talk about people's situation at Liverpool and all the rest of it, I was slightly confused as to why Szoboszlai's contract's being discussed in public at this point, and why it's a question, because he's got a deal till 28.
I don't know. I'm assuming this is around the time when the renewal would have been discussed.
You guess, but equally, I kind of think there's no fire around that straight away, is there?
No,
you know what I mean? It's just a bit like, I can understand if Curtis's is a year before that. So that makes sense.
Maybe someone has had a tip that conversations have begun, and so they're wanting to get his take on it. But it's one of them. I think sometimes,
but it's what it prompts, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That a piece gets written about that because he said some words, and then fans all send it to each other. We're gonna fuck this up now. And I was like, I'm sure he's got a while. Had a look, 28, and I was thinking, well, okay, 2 years, but 2 years in the summer. It's February. Yeah. It doesn't feel like that bad. No, that one. Do you know what I mean?
And when you consider how many potential deals are up the year before, there's probably a lot to get.
I mean, this summer, Konate, Robertson, Leone, Freddie Woodman, Reece Williams. But 27, and then 27 is
Alisson,
Curtis
Van Dijk,
Jones, Salah, Van Dijk, Alisson, Gomez, Bajcetic, who is still alive apparently, and Hendo. That's 27, and then 28 up.
The rest of the midfield, basically.
Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Chiesa, and Ingamawa.
Yeah. So lots of them to come, and you'll hope that the fact that they're talking about Szoboszlai now means that they are talking to him about it, and hopefully can get ahead of it rather than the opposite. But we are still yet to talk about Man City. We're going to go into that. I've not mentioned the whole Geertruida situation, which is probably good for you because it means you don't have to try and pronounce his name.
Honestly, when I seen that, I was like, oh, shit.
We may still sneak that in, but we have come to the end of the show that you get for free. There is still much more of us to get for a little bit more than free, £4 a month, a little bit over on our Patreon show. We're going to be talking about opposites attract. We've got a doozy in the subscriber show. All kind of started from a gig that I'm going to and got me thinking about lots of mad stuff. And mad stuff is what you all love on our show. So come over. You'll want to hear all about that. We've got plenty more football chat. As I said, there's 43 minutes left of the transfer window. I don't think something's going to happen in that time, but who knows? Maybe it will. If it does, then we'll be covering it on that other show as well. But yeah.
If it does, we'll be across it.
I didn't say that.
I know, I hate that phrase. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's all these football. We could do a show on football lexicon maybe one day or something. But there's little ones that make me itch, and we're across it is one of them. And I'm still not fully on board with presser, to be honest with you. I mean, that seems to be widely accepted now, but yeah, not for me.
Presser.
Just not having it. Fucking press comments.
I mean, sometimes it's just slang, though, isn't it?
I know, yeah, but we can't help what we get wound up by. And for me, it's fucking everything.
To be fair, if you didn't know that by now, then welcome to the show.
Hi.
Yes. So that's been our show this week. For now, as I say, this is part 1. Come over to Patreon for part 2. You will not regret it. Anything more from you, Mr. Roberts?
No. I'm desperate for a way, so end the show.
All right. Well, there we go. Thanks for coming. We'll see you in a little bit.